my name is Nur Maisara Md Aziz. My metric number 2022-981545 and I'm from class IC21032. So today I am the first presenter in this group. I will explain about the title of our assignment, Macroeconomic Objective from Conventional and Islamic Perspective. So firstly we go to the introduction. In the study of economic in this country, of course we will also learn about the macroeconomic, which is related to the whole economic in the country. So, macroeconomy is a capitalist economic system which is developed. A capitalist economic system is an individual who owns valuable assets directly or through a firm relationship by that individual. So there are four main objectives in this macroeconomic, which are inflation, balance of payment, unemployment, and economic development.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Syahirah Binti Bakri. My metric number is 2022-912435 and I am from IC21032. Now I am going to present the research objective. Research objective is to ensure that the information provided is effective and structured in the study. Therefore, there are 5 objectives that have been stated. First, to know the definition of macroeconomic and principle of macroeconomic. Second, to clarify what is the macroeconomic variables and policy. Third, to understand the roles and importance of macroeconomic. Fourth, to identify macroeconomic objective from a conventional perspective. And the last one is to explain the macroeconomic objective from an Islamic perspective.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Farah Binti Mustaffa Kamal. I'm from IC21032 and my metric number is 2022-905317. Now, I will present about the definition of macroeconomic. There are several people who define the meaning of the word macroeconomics. Among them are Bush and Fisher. They stated that macroeconomics is concerned with the overall behavior of the economy, and this includes booms and recessions, the total output of goods and service, and output growth, inflation and unemployment rates, exchange rates, and the balance of payments. Now, I will present about the macroeconomic policy. There are 2 macroeconomic policy, which is fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fiscal policy is a policy of change in spending and taxation that controls the aggregate spending or aggregate demand of a country in order to achieve a goals of good employment and price stability. Fiscal policy also deals with how the government manage the economy through varying the size and kind of economy, taxation, public debt, government spending, and revenue. On the other side, the monetary policy aims to control the money supply and interest rate in the economy. This is done to keep a country's aggregate demand under control so that full employment and price stability can be achieved.
Next, we go to the macroeconomic variable. There are 4 main macroeconomic variables. Firstly, we talk about balance of payment. So, balance of payment involves export and import that take place in the country. So, each occurrence of the export and import will cause a difference between the amount. The next one is about inflation. Inflation is the occurrence of a sharp increase over a period of time in the total cost of goods and services. So it has become customary that it will be measured within a year. And also inflation rate in the United Kingdom uses CPI or Consumer Price Index. In addition to the effect of inflation is very dangerous because it can damage the economy. And the third one is about economic development. Economic development is the level of output in terms of volume in an economy that increases over a period measured in year. So the economic growth that takes place in the country is very important because in general the people's economy become getting richer, so this economic growth also will be increased. And the last one is about unemployment. Unemployment, there is a lot of surplus manpower who are able to work with a healthy body, but they don't have a job.
Let's move on to the principle of macroeconomics. Economic output. Economic output is the amount of money produced. It plays a significant role in ensuring that a country achieves its goals while also contributing to country's economic progress. It can be explained that high production justified because more money is spent to goods and services. Government's revenue. In this case, it is related to gross national product, gross domestic product, and net national income. The main goal of all of this is to provide a picture of country's financial health. The primary approach to this endeavor is to consider the value of goods and services produced annually by a nation. Inflation. Inflation can be defined as a steady increase in the price level across a whole economy. On the other hand, most markets in the economy are under pressure to raise prices. Next, international trade. Trading is about exchanging goods and services that benefit both parties. In this context, we can tell that trade can benefit both sides even if one country has an absolute advantage in all products.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Syahirah Binti Md Zain. Metric number 2022-755795 and I'm from class IC21032. So, here I want to present about the role of macroeconomy. There are a few rules of macroeconomy. First, to ensure that the country always achieve full employment, which is the government must ensure that the unemployment rate is low. Next, economic growth is always stable, so it don't make the country experience a decline. This is necessary to always ensure an increase in the number of goods or services compared to the previous year. Last but not least, the government must always strive to create a balance of payment supplies because it will be able benefit of the country, such as always doing permanent trading activity.
Next, we go to the importance of macroeconomic. So, macroeconomic is one of the ways that can help us to understand the increasingly modern economic system in relation to its relatively difficult function. So, the goal of economic growth can be achieved with the help of rising GDP levels as well as rising employment levels. Macroeconomic can also enlighten us about inflation and deflation that happening in the country, where when there is a difference in the value of the currency, then it will give an influence to the life of society. The next one, macroeconomic can understand economic fluctuation because it is one of the characteristics of the capitalist economic system. And the last one, it is one of the solutions to the efficiently controlled inflation and deflation because in addition, the national income and social accounts become more important to take into account with the existence of macroeconomic because there are studies related to this macroeconomics, including the background that has been revealed.
Next, methodology. The researchers decide to use the qualitative method to gain the information that related to this assignment. For example, the researchers collect secondary data from books, internet articles, research articles, journal and newspapers. There are several macroeconomic objectives from conventional perspective. Among them is to achieve full employment. Full employment means all labor in one's country is used optimally. However, this does not mean that the country's unemployment rate has reached zero or that there is no unemployment at all. The government stated that full employment is a situation in which around 96 to 97% of persons who are available to work have jobs. One of the main goals to achieve full employment is to reduce the unemployment rate in a country. This is because when the unemployment rate in the country is too much, it will have a negative impact on the country's economy. For example, unemployed people will have a minimum income which will limit their consumption. This minimum income will place them in a position of relative poverty. Therefore, the government needs to issue more benefits to the unemployed and also the government will receive less income tax. Things like this will make the government debt increase and the economy unstable.
Next, we go to the price stability. So, price stability occurs when there is inflation and deflation that occurs in the national economy. So, price stability can also benefit the economy because the standard of living can be maximized with the purchasing power at its maximum level as well as creating flexibility in employment because it is in a stable state. In the free market, as is well known, it involves supply and demand as a result of a fixed price. So, price stability can also defined as an economic condition in a sudden situation such as the Consumer Price Index or CPI or the Consumer Price Harmonization Index or CPHI. So there are a few benefits of the price stability that can be seen. First is about prevent voluntary division of health. The second one, it can lower the effect of the premium. And the last one, it can help the financial system become better.
Now I'm going to talk about the economic growth. Economic growth is a fundamental policy goal for any government since it is necessary for reducing poverty, creating jobs and closing the gap between poor and rich. Besides, economic growth has improved the general standard of life of the population, made income distribution easier to achieve and shorten the time for a large portion of the population to meet their basic needs. On the other hand, monetary policy is one of the primary drivers of economic growth and development. Low interest rates contribute to an increase in the money supply which is linked to high inflation. Move to the next slide. Equitable income distribution. It refers to how a country's income is distributed among its citizens or how the wealth or income are distributed among nations. In other words, it is also related to income inequality. The income disparities between Malaysians are the source of income inequality. The government can eliminate inequality and ensure that everyone has enough to eat and live a decent life through social programs and taxes. Income can be shifted from rich to the poor by taxing higher income groups more than lower income groups.
Next from me, I will explain about the better quality of life. The factors that have a quality of life are different for each person. For example, workplace. If the economy improves, it will make the life of the consumer better according to the level of the person himself. So, because of that, it will make the person pray for the better health, meaningful work, good rest and more. For example, the government can provide paid leave to those who care for the sick family members or to fund school funding for those who cannot afford it.
One of the macroeconomic objectives from an Islamic perspective is to establish social justice. This is because Islam attaches great importance to equality of right in general for all people, whether rich or poor. It is aimed to achieve spiritual salvation to human happiness. Moreover, everyone should have equal access to wealth, health, well-being, justice, and even privilege, regardless of their political, economic, and other circumstances. Social justice in Islam can be achieved with the establishment of two matters, which is zakat and the prohibition of interest. Zakat is a redistribution system that existed 14 centuries ago in Arabia. The case for reviving and strengthening the zakat system is that it will provide a more effective safety net than current secular redistribution programs. The rich have to pay zakat and the zakat will be distributed to the poor and needy. Thus, this will close the gap between the rich and the poor. In addition, Islam provides interest in all types of transaction. This is because it is seen as oppressing one party because the party has to pay more than it should. Therefore, in order to obtain social justice, Islam prohibits any kind of interest.
Next, we go to the equitable distribution of income. So, as we know in Islam, it is strictly forbidden to have interest or riba, as mentioned in the Quran Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 275, where Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says with the meaning, Allah has permitted trading and forbidden riba. So, in addition, in Islam, there are set and written laws that follows the Sharia that we must follow. Firstly, in relation to the system of zakat and ushur that is carried out, where there is only one comparison that can be seen between these two systems. Firstly, is about ushur, where the community pays it for the production of the land, and zakat is paid on the income of property owned. So the definition of ushur here is financing that must be disbursed for the reason that agriculture is carried out when the harvest is already available. So zakat is about property issued based on the available income to help the aid needy asnaf. According to Imam Shafi'i, this system of zakat and ushur is very important to see the method used to implement it. But according the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, the zakat and ushur system can be used at any time and area that has been set, and it is not necessarily focused on the deserving group only. Therefore, the distribution can be carried out fairly without involving any riba only, because the forbidden riba can be avoided, so that the wealth can be invested in an active economic industry.
Next is about universal education. Seeking knowledge is obligatory for every Muslim. Allah SWT has provided human beings with something unlimited in order to develop talents through education. It also became the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad SAW. In Islamic economy, the government needs to providing teaching material for children needs to be renewed to be more attractive, and also can provide recognition in study at the university level, either for Muslim or non-Muslim. And last but not least, provide free education to anyone who want to further their education but cannot afford it. Next, optimal rate of economic growth. Economic growth rate is the percentage change in the evaluation of all goods and services that have been produced in the country in a given period of time compared to the previous period. In Islamic economy, economic growth is a comprehensive and inclusive. In Islam, is a consumer, which is include moral, spiritual, and material aspect in the life of Muslim community. While in the term of capital formation, it includes human capital and material capital. Human capital here means economic value that comes from the experience and skill performed by the employee, while the material capital is composed of the main mates, goods themselves that help in the production process.
The last macroeconomic objective from Islamic perspective is the maximization of employment generation. To improve economic and achieve macroeconomic objective, it is necessary to maximize job creation where the unemployment rate is low. As is well known, human is a servant of God and clip on earth. It can be explained that humans are responsible for the environment and must serve Allah, as stated in the Quran in Surah Al-Dhariyat, verse 56, meaning, "And I did not create jinn and mankind except for worship me." Moreover, work is one of the acts of worship in Islam. In this context, being a caliph on the earth can also be associated with a job where it is a part of life. Thus, work is worship when it is intended because of Allah. Hence, employment generation must be maximized to achieve objective from an Islamic perspective. That's all from me. Thank you.
Last from us is about conclusion and suggestion. Macroeconomic studies here can give us that macroeconomy is something that happen on a large scale. It is also a thing that brings benefit regardless of whether it's from conventional perspectives or Islamic perspective. Both of these perspectives provide their own benefit regardless of the Muslim or non-Muslim community. This shows how important macroeconomy is in developing a country. So the government and society must play an important role to prevent bad things from happening to the country. For example, the government gives change in government tax directly, while the society needs to consistently make its life better. That's all from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.